Well, hello there, YouTube. We are back finally.
Yes, we've had quite a round of events going on for the last 3 months, as Jason just advised me.
Ouch.
It was 1
Yes.
March when we last sent a link, which means that was the last time we probably recorded.
Yeah.
So we apologize for the delay. Had a few family events. I had twins here in April. Um,
Yeah.
and on top of
Congrats.
that, thank you. And on top of that, Jason has merged. Well, I won't say merged. He went off to a slightly different merger. I don't know what else to put.
Partnership, we'll say.
Partnership, yeah, called the Retro Network, and he can explain that.
Yeah, me and Mickey Yarber over at the retroramblings.com. I've had him on as a guest a couple times on the Rankum episodes for TV shows. It was just basically I think the last podcast we did was kind of a one-off little comment on, hey, we should. I wish we could all just kind of like work together, and this could be our full-time job, podcasting, and diving into retro pop culture. And it kind of stuck with him, and he hit me back and said, "Well, you want to try to do something?" I was like, "Yeah, we can try to do something." And the more we talked, the more we were like, yeah, well, you've got your little individual site. I've got mine. There's many more people out there that it's in our like retro universe, I'd say, has their own blog or website or podcast. And let's try to bring some people in and kind of join forces, make it more of a joint effort instead of us all working individually. And we kicked it off June 1st after planning for about a month and deciding on everything, the site, the name, the whatever. And he actually found the name, found that the web the what I want to say, the domain was available for the Retro Network. So that's what we are. And we've been posting up articles. We've got 2 podcasts in our podcast channel now, and another one I'm working on producing right now, and that'll be uploaded next week. So check me out over there. I'm still doing, obviously, Rediscover the 80s as we are here and ready to podcast. And I'll just be doing a little bit less posting there than I had been, which wasn't really much anyway. Putting more effort into everything over there at the Retro Network. But Rediscover the 80s is not going anywhere, so we can keep doing our memory joggers and rankums and all that fun stuff in the podcast. And whenever we want to get some articles up there, I'm still posting those interviews for Old School 80s and his catalog of interviews that went back several years. We had a little agreement to keep those posted and keep those on the Rediscover the 80s, so I'll be putting those up. I usually do those every other Friday. And so we'll keep some content there as well. But the Retro Network, go check it out. You need to listen to, Wyatt. I don't think you've listened to the first show at all.
No, I haven't. I've been rather busy with trying to keep pace with the twins. If I'm not feeding one, I'm trying to juggle feeding both, which doesn't work. But and what's funny is my wife will actually put one in one of the seats, whatever they are, and she'll kind of sort of use the blanket as the bracket to hold the bottle. It's hilarious. I'm like, well, you got to do what you got to do. I love it.
Long as the kid's getting food,
That,
that's all that matters, right?
that's it.
Well, we're glad to be back, and let's go ahead and get this thing started. We're going to do a memory jogger on our phone. What did I call it? Or
You called it phone
telephone
times. I called it phone wars, just for something.
telephone times, maybe. That's a
Yeah.
nice little alliteration there. So I guess we'll go with that and see how we do here. But let's go ahead and get started and get rolling on this memory jogger.
Alrighty.
All right, get to my intro here. Welcome back to another episode of Memory Jogger on the Rediscover the 80s podcast. Thank you, everyone, for subscribing, listening to us, and we are back to once again jog our memories and run down a few childhood dreams from the 80s and early 90s. I am one of your hosts, Jason, who you can call for $2 the first minute and 50 cents each additional minute. Or if your long distance phone bill is adding up, you can dial 1010-321 and save some money when you talk to my fellow co-host Wyatt. How are you, sir?
Great. Man, I miss those 10-10-3-2-1s. I don't think I ever tried those. I was too scared it'd be like a scam, you know?
Oh, we did. I remember Dad, we would get little things in the mail to put up on the fridge, magnets and whatever else, or he'd cut them out of the paper and put them up on the fridge. Dial this if you're going to call long distance. And I guess it worked, whatever it was, 10 cents a minute, or I can't remember what those charges were, but back in the day, that's those long distance charges, the phone companies depended on that, all the landlines,
Oh, yes. Well,
But anyway,
working at radio, when we worked at WCPA, all those news talk, they always had ads for stuff. And one of them was for a phone card.
yeah.
And and a few months before I left from the military, I thought, I'll get one of these. And at least it'll be slightly cheaper. I can't remember the minutes, but you put $25 or whatever on it. And
Mhm.
I toted that thing around. I renewed that card for at least my first year, maybe second 2 years before I finally caved and went to whatever long distance was around
Mhm.
AT&T or whoever. But I had that card for the longest time, and that was one of my things I'd bought, listening to news talk. That's all you listen to. I actually paid attention for once. Maybe I should get one of these cards. That might actually be a good idea. Ring them up from the studio. I think I rung them up.
So the ad worked then on you listening to it
It
probably
did.
once a night, if not more.
It did. I'm going on a bunny trail just for a slight second. I said that we weren't allowed to talk on WCPA. None
Mhm.
of us, well, except for Jason. But we're the part timers. We're not supposed to. Well, I've completely forgot how I worked around that loophole. And my dad said something. He came down to visit, and we said, "Oh, I heard you say WCPA. I heard you saying something talking on the radio." I said, "When did I talk? We're not allowed to talk." Because I heard you. And it hit me. Oh, yes. I used to get on those talk shows on Sun Radio networks, and that was my loophole to talk. They'd get on something, and it was usually about a product. It was never really about, politics or whatever's going on in the day. It was just straight out, "Well, we're selling this, this, and this. What would you think?" Okay, and I just picked up the phone and, "Hey, this is Wyatt from Clearfield, and yeah, you're talking about this." Like, and my dad caught me. I completely forgot that I pulled that
Uh,
stunt
so you did. You did get on the air then.
in a roundabout way, just not on the mic. So,
Cool. Well, we are up to episode 18. And as we alluded to in the intro, like we do, we'll be discussing our times of the telephone and our memories, when you actually had to push buttons on the telephone
oh,
to
yeah.
call somebody or even rotate the little dial.
Oh, I had those.
And we're just going to kind of go back through our experiences with those and with novelty phones, some prank phone calls that we did and the like. So this is our topic for episode 18 of Memory Jogger. And as we do, we like to start off with a little feedback, which it's been a while since this feedback was left, but we like to give a shout out to our followers and thank them for listening to our stories and everything. One of our biggest fans, Gerospace, he left a couple comments for us. One on Memory Jogger the movie, and he said, "This is so cool! What a great way to document your past for your children, not to mention us listeners. watching this, I had to smile because we are around the same age, having done the same things as kids, and now we're driving SUVs with child seats in the back. Yeah, in the video, if you remember, Wyatt, when we first headed off there, and throughout the movie, we're going back and forth on the in the cockpit of your minivan and seeing the car seats in the back. That's the life we live now. Yep.
That is what it is. I still want an A-Team van. I'm trying to convince Julie to let me get a van. I
Oh
want to
yeah.
fit it up and try to do at least a mock-up of it, and she's just not sold on any big full-size van yet.
That is the van to have if you're going to go that way. But you could always, paint your minivan and get a red spoiler on top and roll grill guard in the front.
I've toyed with that. The problem is, I think of resale, and I know not too many people would think that was pretty cool as a resale. I think I dropped the value on it.
All right. A few more comments here for feedback on our hometown restaurants and forgotten foods episode. Joe Space said, now this episode brought back a lot of memories I had completely forgotten about. Some of my favorite drinks as a kid were the different types of Shasta and Bubble Up. That was like the bubblegum flavored soda. Did not remember that, at least drinking that. I do remember seeing the cans and such, but anyway, I'm not sure if you guys had it or not, but it was kind of the knockoff version of 7-Up. I ate just about all of the things that you guys mentioned for snacks too. The other thing that I could think of was Lowry's jerky. It came in a can and there must have been 20 sticks in it. Maybe you guys had that too.
I don't remember that. I remember just the regular jerky you find in a bag, the Slim Jims, or you got the snuff looking stuff.
Yeah, Slim Jims and the shredded stuff in the can is mainly what I remember.
Yeah.
We have a new fan, Karen Flieger. I hope I'm saying that right. She said, this was over on Facebook. I just started listening to your podcast last weekend. I'm really enjoying the Memory Joggers. This was the first episode I listened to because it's the first one I downloaded, but I loved it. I had an idea for a show topic while listening to your mixtape episode, the local chain or record stores. I had memories of shopping at Turtles, Coconuts, Tower, and Sam Goody in the late 1990s to early 2000s. I worked for Sam Goody / Musicland's entertainment megastore, which was called Media Play. I worked in the book department. That put my bachelor's in English to good use, but every once in a while, when a customer stumped the music department, they would send their customers over to sing to me. That's great. Yeah, that could be fun. I do remember a couple record stores.
Yep.
There was one in the mall. I remember kind of down from Fashion Bug.
Yes.
That was there for quite a while. I remember buying some tapes in there, mainly, and then up by County Market there in the Kmart Plaza, there was a record store for a while. I remember buying CDs there mainly.
Right.
That would have been early mid 90s. That I got some. That was during the Columbia House era when I wasn't getting those from them. I was up there at that one. So yeah, we did have a couple of those around, and it was definitely a unique experience. There's actually still one in the Du Bois Mall that's I don't know if it's Sam Goody, but it's one of those that's music and movies and all the media.
Well, I know we had a Sam Goody over there in the Nittany Mall. That's one of the things we came across when we did our little end of year senior skip day.
Oh, okay.
And I remember walking there. I'm like, this is actually really cool. There's so much more than what Clearfield offers. I think I even made a comment to someone, whether you or Leaf or someone. I said, I think this is all three, all the Ames, the Kmart, and the two stores combined, all in one there at the Nittany Mall.
Yeah, that was quite a bit bigger, and a lot more stores. That's where I bought my my lava lamp at the Spencer's there. Still have it.
Yes, yes, you
And
do.
that's where I bought the Beavis and Butthead keychain as well. I had the Great Cornholio on a keychain, and he hung in my car for a long time, and he finally just basically fell apart. Like his little, you know how Beavis's like lower jaw hangs
Yeah.
out. It just fell out, so he didn't
Well,
have a
you
lower.
well, the last time I remember seeing that wasn't too long ago. It was on our
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
it was.
road trip to 40. I think that's when I saw it last.
It was just within the last couple years. It just finally came off the keychain and fell apart. Anyway, one more comment we've got responding to that same podcast when we put it up on Twitter was at All 80s Weekend. They said, never been to this part of Pennsylvania, but I still love hearing people talk lovingly about where they grew up and the spots that they hung out at. And the discussion about old foods is a bonus. So thank you for that, All 80s Weekend.
Yeah.
That was a fun episode. Just I love kind of combining stuff. So we talk a little bit about our experience and memories, and then we have a little, almost like a little history lesson too,
It seems
for
like it,
somebody
yes.
that didn't, either grow up in the area or wasn't familiar with what we dealt with, or just maybe a younger person that that didn't grow up in the 80s, and they're not going to have any memories of using rotary dial phones.
That's it. And that's what I like about
So
our memory jogger because I never thought about it as a history thing, but I guess it kind of is because we talk about things, heck, I go back to the radio station, but think about the carts. I mean, no one thought, people used carts. Heck, no one thought about that. I didn't think about that till I showed up at the radio station. I thought, as I was always kind of, uh, um, I guess, innocent about it in that I thought Bob sat there every day and just, every time there was a commercial, he'd sit there until I saw it.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, just to tape it and let it do its own thing. I mean, naive. That's
right.
what I was trying to think of. But um, but still, I mean, an 8-track style looking cart, and that's what
Yeah,
we run in the radio station. And now we got computers, so and it's fun. I talked to a radio guy here, and I still punch at him a little bit. He's been in the business for 18 years, he says, but he's never seen a cart machine. Like, come on, dude.
oh wow, now that makes me feel old. And I know we were
I'm teaching him as he's on the air. I don't talk on the air. I talk like via email,
uh,
and I'm like, dude, don't you guys have a this? And like, I've never used one of those. I'm like,
oh my gosh,
holy cow!
we were kind of on the tail end of the
I
what I
guess
would call the analog era,
we
because
were.
it was we were right on the digital era, uh, as we were headed out of WCPA, and then when I got into college, we still hadn't made the transition to digital on the air. We were still using like hi-fi VHS tapes basically to record 6 hours of whatever,
Right.
6 hours of shifts, and play during our overnight. That was our automation.
That's it. But
and when
hey,
the tape ran out, it was wait for it to rewind, and then we're back on the air. Seriously.
dead air. Oh, it's rewinding. Give it a second.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get about a 6, or I don't know if we had 8 or if it was 6 hours, but usually our last shift at the college was around 11, and we had enough to get us through, the night. And then it usually, whenever, sometime during the early morning hours, it would rewind and get us back going, and the whole clock would be off,
Of
because
course.
it takes like 2 minutes for it to rewind. So you wouldn't get an ID until like 5 after 4 after the hour, and it was
Yeah.
kind of off. But anyway, that was another little
Tangent.
bunny trail moment. But let's get back to the show, and we like to do these little icebreakers before we get into the main topic. You want to take the first one here Since you are the Airwolf fan.
I think we're all Airwolf fans, no matter who we are.
True, true.
But yes, we have lost I'll call it the main pilot of Airwolf, Jan Michael Vincent. Most of you probably already know that he's passed away, but if you haven't heard that news yet, he passed away on February the 10th of 2019. He was
Mhm,
battling a lot of things. Some of you might know that he was battling alcoholism during the show.
mhm,
I know he had a rough life afterwards. He pretty much just faded off the radar pretty much after Airwolf. I think there was a couple of things that he had done, but he really fell off.
mhm.
But nonetheless, I've seen memes and pictures, that all three are now up in the heavens, patrolling the skies because we lost Airwolf. The original Airwolf chopper crashed over in Germany when they sold it. So
Really?
original Airwolf is gone. Dom went. Ernest Borgnine. Now we got
Right.
Jan Michael Vincent up there. So
Yeah.
I see the memes every now and then. Still to this day, I still see the memes that they're all patrolling the skies or something to that
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah. It was interesting. I had forgot I put that note up there, or maybe it was you when we originally created these notes. And then I saw today that little link you put on my Facebook page about one of the replicas being transported on a tractor trailer from museum to museum, I guess, right?
Well, that music, I've read the article. I think that's the chopper from that mansion that's for sale out in California,
Oh,
and they're
okay.
trailering it to a museum to sit. And that's the one. It took me a lot of reading to figure it out. That's the one that the guy did. He bought a shell of a Bell 222. He had it out in his front yard, which is hilarious. You see a helicopter in someone's front yard. Um, and he redid everything, made it a replica. It was the one that hung in a museum, aviation museum up in Kentucky. Then they had to get rid of it for some reason, and that's it landed itself. It got sold, and it landed itself on that mansion, and now it's coming back to a museum. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah, it's pretty impressive, that bird.
Yeah, that'd be quite a sight down the interstate, and you see Airwolf on the flatbed pickup. you know,
I'd be so
I,
tempted to just go to stop the guy, like, "Look, dude, let me pretend, please."
yeah, I'd be handing the phone to whoever's with me in the car. Quick, get pictures. I'm just gonna cruise beside it for the next 10 miles.
Well, I try to run and hijack it, not that it's going to go anywhere. Turbo! Oh, it's dead.
Well, that was a fun picture today. One that I just put up here now. My son is into this game Rocket League. We play on Xbox One. It's basically soccer with cars, and it's pretty fun. I've gotten into it a couple times because they have released like Hollywood movie vehicles and such a couple of times. They've got some Batmobiles on there. They've got the Back to the Future DeLorean and the Jurassic Park Jeep. So they're slowly releasing these pop culture cars to the game, and that's usually when uh, I get back into it. And they just announced they're doing this summer event. It's called Radical Summer, starting June 10th, which is Monday while we're recording here. And they are bringing Ecto One and Kit to the game this
Sweet.
summer. So you'll be able to hit that big soccer ball around and boost in the Ecto One. There's some kind of slime like boost that comes out of the back. They have a trailer up you can see on YouTube and also on the Retro Network if you want to. I put a quick story up there. But each car when you buy these packs, they come with special little accessories, and then every time you score a goal, there's this huge explosion, and it does something special. And with the Ecto One at the end of the trailer, you see the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man kind of come out of the soccer goal and start walking, and then he explodes into marshmallow. It was
That's awesome.
when we watched my Jackson and I were watching the trailer, and it went through the whole thing. And then as it's coming to the end, they do that goal explosion. We're like, yeah, we're just screaming. We're so excited. And then later, I think it's towards the end of July, they're going to release the Knight Rider pack, and they haven't really said yet what other special accessories and stuff are coming with kit. But usually you can do custom paint on them, and there's usually something special. I was hoping that when they would do because you get boost during the game, so you can hit the ball harder and actually fly up in the air and such. I was like, okay, when that happens, he needs to have like super pursuit mode come out of the car, because I know they can. Now I've got the Back to the Future DeLorean. I was just playing today, and when you hit your boost for a long period of time, the time circuits engage. You start seeing the blue, glowing. You get the fire trail coming out of the back, and you hear the time circuit sounds. I'm like, they've got to do that super pursuit mode sound, and all that stuff needs to start coming out of kit, when you boost. That would be perfect if they did something like that. But I'm also wondering if you can get like or kind of customize to look like car, or just what if it's going to be random colors or something. But it's got the eye, it's got the Cylon eye, and then his boost out of the back, it goes like the Cylon eye back and forth. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
I've seen from the trailer, but there's all kinds of like 80s stuff they're doing, like decals, and there's going to be, they do little toppers for your car, so you can put like this little whatever on the top, like a hat or various other items. But they've got like a Voltron lion now you're going to be able to get to put on your car, and they got a Voltron wrap sticker for the front that has the logo. It's the newer, it's the, what do you call it, the DreamWorks Legendary Defender Voltron. It's not the classic, but still it looks very cool. And they've got a ton of other accessories from the 80s. They've got a set of wheels that's looks like a moon, and it's got the ET shadow going across the wheels. And you can get wheels that look just like the Ghostbusters logo. So it's pretty cool what they're doing on Rocket League, and it's a fun game. It's something that's pretty popular and keeps growing. And the team, if you've ever heard of that game Fortnite, that's pretty popular. I think the company that owns that just bought Rocket League. So this is if they're going to do events like this, I'm going to be all in on it.
Oh yeah, I guess I need to get an Xbox.
Yeah, I've had a couple other people say to me, first I've ever heard of that game, and I'm going to have to start playing, and it is pretty fun.
Yeah, I have to probably see if they make it for Switch, but probably end up having to get an Xbox.
Well, I know they'd make it on PlayStation 4, so it's possible they could have a Switch version.
I'll have to look it up now.
Yeah. Then you added another little moment here for the icebreaker, I think.
I don't remember this one.
I don't either.
No, I don't remember. Battery. Oh, yeah, that must be for something else.
Okay. Well, sorry. We can, that's all right. We can jump that out. Well, do you have anything else you want to add as an icebreaker?
No, I think we actually covered it pretty well. I still don't know what this was about, the batteries. I think it's actually for a discussion, just a discussion point, So like when you had batteries, just in general, were they rationed, like get the most out of them, or were they relatively abundant? Like you could, if your car or something started to die, you could just go get another set of AA's or 9-volt or whatever. Or were they rationed? Like, no, not until it creeps, then you replace the battery or something.
I can remember. It was still when we were in our first house. So this was in the 80s, and getting our first set of rechargeable batteries. and it was this huge thing, huge black like charger that you plugged into the wall. And we had, I think, different adapters. So there was some for the AA, then we had some, I think, for like C batteries. I can't remember exactly. I want to say maybe it was one of my remote control cars that we got it for, because I would play those down in the basement with the neighborhood friends, and we had a couple remote control cars that we probably got from Radio Shack or something, one Christmas, and got the rechargeable batteries. I don't remember them lasting very long. I'm not sure how big, the tech was back then, but typically we were trying to, I guess more rationed, let's save the batteries. Let's play for 15 minutes and call it a day.
Well, for us, I mean, we were fairly rationed. We couldn't go. Um, I mean, I'm sure we did beg and scream for batteries all the time for something, but how we rationed them was hilarious. When we change out the 9 volts in the smoke alarms, well, we'd reuse them for a calculator or some other entity that used 9 volts. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember my dad would put fresh batteries in the smoke detectors, like I said, and goes, "Okay, what else around here needs 9 volts?" And I usually raised my hand for one of my calculators. I'd throw it in there. I think one of my sister's toys used a 9 volt, so we throw it in there, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
we essentially rationed them, because there's quite a bit of life typically in the 9 volts that come out of smoke detectors. You just do the thing,
Yeah.
the preventative thing of you want to make sure it's fresh and there's actually juice going to that device.
Yeah.
So that's how we rationed them. In essence, we didn't have any rechargeable batteries whatsoever. Um, I don't think even my dad even thought about using them. It was uh, we like I said, we were rationed. It was if they died, and you had to wait till grocery day or something before we could get batteries.
Gotcha.
And that's what my
Yeah.
train of thought
That
was. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, that's fun. Just thinking about that, I forgot we had rechargeable batteries pretty early on as a kid, and uh, wasn't something we were looking. Even back then, you didn't worry about high drain, low drain type stuff, that you have
No,
to now with all your uh, wireless controllers and everything that we go through them for. But back then, it was just, try to get the name brand, and if you can't, then you're probably not going to get as much juice out of that battery.
I think quite a bit we didn't buy the name brand. It was always, the store brand or some knockoff. We
Yeah.
would we would argue about the general purpose versus alkaline. I think my dad finally succumbed to getting alkaline because it would last longer, so we didn't have to go to the store or hear us complain as much or as
Yeah.
often because of that. But nonetheless, I mean, we that was our. I don't think we if it came with it, we probably had Duracells, but I don't think we ever did.
Yeah. He was probably watching The Highwayman, and that was kind of a subliminal message there with the Jacko and the Energizer batteries.
He could have, but we still didn't use energizers. It was like I said, it was whatever knockoff.
All right. Well, let's get into the show, man. I'm looking forward to this, and kind of just remembering what it was like to have only a landline phone in your house, and the before cell phones, but even before we knew there was such a thing as like cellular phones, bag phones that they had, the early ones. Uh, what do you remember what your setup was in your house as a kid? Did you have a couple outlets in the house? So maybe like your parents had one in the bedroom and you had one in the one of the other like living room areas or something.
That's exactly what we had. We had one in my parents' room, and then we had one in my our kitchen. The one in the kitchen, if I remember right, was a wall mount, and it was the old rotary type phone. And for those that are not at all aware of what a rotary phone would be, that's one of the rotary phones. I mean, seriously, this is you literally dialed your number and you waited for this spring load to wind back down. So
Hmm.
heaven forbid you had one of the nines or zeros in your number. It took you a while to zing it around. Um, most recently, I've been listening to actually right here. This is kind of what we had. This wall mount
Hmm.
right here on the yellow left hand side
Yep.
here.
So did we.
We I think we had a white tabletop one there in my parents' bedroom. But anyway, I was talking about Ray Stevens has a little bit in his thing where it has me again, Margaret. The very last bit, he's calling from jail. He dials, but he dials it like a really long, so it's like zing, 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 just to have fun with it. So I remember those long dials to
Yeah.
dial like the 8 or 9. I'm like, oh crap, really? Yeah. And there was no redial. So if you screwed up somewhere in that mix, you had to hang up and start all over again. How about you? What was your setup like?
Yeah, I believe that's what we had. I know we had one that was wall mounted in the kitchen, and it had one of those ridiculously long cords that
Yep.
always tangled. So mom could move around the kitchen while she's talking, or if you wanted to drag it into the living room, I think you could make it to dad's recliner or like one part of the couch
Nice.
if you needed to sit down. But yeah, that was the main one. And dad always had and has always had some kind of ringer outside. So I remember there being a ring outside uh, in our breezeway so he could hear it when he was in the garage. So I'm sure the neighbors loved that, if we got a late call at night or something and
Oh
hearing
yeah.
that hearing that ring across the street. But he had to have something outside. He still does, so he can hear it. Doesn't want to miss a phone call, you know. And I think we at one point we had well, I think they did have a phone in their bedroom as well, and I didn't get one in mine until later, which we'll get into. But yeah, do you remember your first phone number?
I do. 814-765-6317. Still remember it.
Nice. Yeah, I got mine too. I was the Kerwinsville number,
Yep.
so 236-2610. Yep. I can still remember that. So yeah, I remember, mainly using the kitchen one when I was needing to call one of my friends or whatever, when I'm talking to grandparents, which I don't know. I was, I guess, a shy kid, and my grandparents on my dad's side lived a couple hours away, and I didn't see them but a few times a year. So I was kind of shy. And
Yeah.
only usually talk to my neighborhood friends when I needed to or something. See if they're home and come on down and play some Atari or
Yeah.
whatever. I'll meet you in the woods.
Yeah.
you know.
That's pretty much what mine was like. Calling
So
calling friends up, hey, you want to come over or whatever. And it was very, very little that I actually used it. I remember my mom talked to my grandmother almost daily.
mhm.
And that was a long distance phone call from where my grandmother was. So I always she called every day, but then she'd always say that they're on a tight budget. Well, you call a long distance every day, but anyway,
Yeah. Well, you remember getting a phone in your bedroom? Was it a big deal?
um, I did not get a phone in my bedroom until after we moved away from Dory Street. Um, I want to say, think I was about 11 or 12.
Mhm.
Um, no, I was 14. I was 14 when it happened because that's when we moved out to Eden, and there happened to be a phone line, a phone jack in the room, and that's where it started. Um, I got my first phone, which was a hand-me-down style. Um, It was along the lines of, if you think about the bag phone, right? The
Hmm.
bag phones back in the day had, like this guy right here, had all your buttons on the back. It didn't have a screen, it just had buttons
Hmm.
for the phone that I had, and it was just this handpiece with the cable to the wall. That's all I had. I didn't have, obviously, this box. And like Jason said, this is one of our portable bag phones, cellular phones back in the day. It was something like this. But my phone was, like I said, just the receiver part. Um,
Gotcha.
but that was my first phone, and then I found out we could get speaker phones, and that used to piss you off to no end because I'd call him up on a speakerphone. Do you have me on speakerphone? Yeah. Please take me off. That's annoying.
I do remember that now. Yeah. Oh my. I didn't.
What
I
about
don't
you?
remember. Um, I don't remember having a phone in my bedroom in Kerwinsville. I might have at one point, and it might have been just when we upgraded the phone or something. I got the old one, but I specifically remember having one when we moved to Clearfield in my dad's place over there across from the school. I had one in that room, and then over at mom's apartment, we had a long cord from the wall, not the from the receiver, but so I would, if I was going to take a call or be on for a while, like when we were watching our favorite show together, I would drag the handset or the whole phone itself from the wall with this long cord back the hallway into my bedroom because there was no jack back there, and that's the way I would talk on that phone and call my friends, or if I'm talking to somebody for a long time and wanted some privacy,
Nice.
I pulled it all the way back there. Did you have any kind of like novelty phones, like weird ones?
No,
Some of those ones you could get with a subscription to Sports Illustrated, or any of those fun phones.
no, unfortunately, no. I never had one. I wanted, which one did I want? There was one, it was a car. I want to say it was like a, um, I can't remember what, I want to say it was like a sports car, probably a Corvette or some style like that. But
Mhm.
I wanted one like that. But then I saw the price. It was like, I don't know, $10, $15 more than your cheapo phone.
Yeah,
So I never did get one of those. Toyed with getting the Garfield one, but again, I just never did. How about you?
that was like my holy grail. If I had, and it's probably still is, because we still have a house phone. It's hooked up to Google Voice through our internet, but we still have the house phone and use it. And I would love to have that Garfield phone. The one that we're talking about is where when the receiver is down, his eyes are closed. And when you pick it up to answer the phone, he wakes up, his eyes open. And I remember like circling that. There it is.
Yeah, if it switches back to me, you see the ad here with the little girl. When the phone's up, like Jason said, eyes are open. When the receiver's down, you see on his back the stripes. He's fast asleep, dreaming about
Yeah.
lasagna.
And I believe that image that you put up there was from one of the wish book catalogs, because I remember that being in there. I remember thinking about getting that or circling that, and probably my parents were like, "Oh, geez,"
Well, it's actually
you
from
know.
your old site that used to be a part of Underscoop Fire.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, yeah, that was a phone that I had always wanted, and I think at one point, Mom had the one that you could see all the guts. That was like clear, and you could see all the electronic parts inside. It was still kind of bright colored, like pink, and there you go.
Yep, back on me. This one's actually says it's on eBay. But here's you see the whole gadgetry, the electronics, circuit card, the whole nine. And there's even just enough space to write down those important numbers.
Yeah, she had something like that at one point. And then the one I had over at dad's, I guess it was a Christmas present one year. I still have it somewhere. It was a old like 50s or 60s red Chevy pickup, and all of the push button numbers were on the bottom of it, and it had the a little button that you, when it set down, so the car was flat, it would be off. But when you picked it up, then that button came out, and you could talk on it and make a call. Well, it was cool, and it looked, it was like a fun little piece to have in your room, but it was a pain because you would be talking and then you'd accidentally hit that little button and it would hang up, whoever you're talking with. You're like, oh crap. So it was more of at one point I probably switched over to a different phone. Yes. There you go.
This is what Jason is talking about. It's actually on Amazon. So
that's the exact one. That is the exact one. I don't know how you found it, but that's it.
Just typed it in. It's amazing what's out there on the net.
Yeah, I've got that in a box somewhere. But yeah, I always thought it was fun. I remember those commercials back in the day, especially for Sports Illustrated. They had the football phone that flipped open. And then the other one that was I absolutely wanted, but I never had a subscription to Sports Illustrated. The other one that was funny was the sneaker phone. You remember the sneaker phone?
No, I don't remember that. I'll look it up. But here's the one that Jason's talking about that flips open. It's a novelty football, and there it is. It's nothing more than a flip phone, really.
It really was, yeah. And punch in the sneaker phone while you've got the Google search up there. Sports Illustrated sneaker phone, something like that.
Is that it?
No, it was white. It was white, and it was more just that plain Jane.
Sports Illustrated, right here. Is this what you're looking for?
I believe so.
There's the underside of it. There you go.
That's it. Yep, that is it right there. And they would, I remember the commercials. They would run the commercials, get a subscription to Sports Illustrated, and you get this sneaker phone, and they would like interview people on the street. What would you do with your sneaker phone? Oh man, I'd be cool with this thing, and I don't know. Anyway, it was kind of stupid, the commercials.
Cool, like your buddy here, Get Smart.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's kind of like what it was, but of course with the cord. So there was some fun. Some other punch in like 80s novelty phones and see what you come up with, and let's just look and see if there's one there that maybe strikes a bell, because there was a ton back in the day.
Oh, there was a slew of them. That's
Mickey
why I'm like,
and
I wanted
all different kinds of characters.
I just could not break it. I mean, here's one huge pile of them. You got your Snoopy phone. You had the classic. You got a Chameleon Mini. Here's Kermit. That's not one. Here's a couple ads here for lips and.
Oh, the red lips. I remember that one. Yep. That was maybe, I don't know if that was 80s or maybe early 90s.
You feel hungry for a phone?
The hamburger. I remember seeing that in one of the Wish Book catalogs. Absolutely.
Well, look, there's a Pac-Man phone.
Yep. Now, I just remembered one. I remember visiting friends of ours, friends of my parents, when I was younger, and they had one of those. It looked like the old-fashioned. Old-fashioned, like one of the original phones that you would wind, and you had the talk piece, and then you had the little small black. Yeah, it was like that. But when you opened it up, then there was a modern phone inside. So it was like this carrier on the wall, like a case, a piece. And you could open it up, and inside was like your modern whatever.
This is what Jason's talking about. I mean, this is still, it's somewhat of a modern. I mean, if any of you watched a great example is to watch something like Little House on the Prairie when they installed the first phones. You got the winder, and that's all you had to ring, and you had that would ring the number to the operator, and you would have to say, "Hey, can I have so and so or this number?" And the Stooges were hilarious because
Two
if
two two two.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And as much as we can laugh at that because it's hilarious, I've paid attention over the years. And that's what you said. Can I have Market Street 2222? So it'd be Market Street and their phone number, on that market. So it was really interesting how they did the thing. Oh, do you want a duck call? Oh,
Yeah, there we go. That was huge back. I remember my dad having a bunch of like duck things. He had like the little duck uh, brush that got like the fuzzy stuff off your sweaters, you know?
oh yeah.
That was huge back in the day, those mallard ducks.
Then you got your R2D2 here. I think that's a little bit more modern.
Hmm.
I don't think that's an 80s gag. Oh, look, you even have the Nabisco dude.
The Keebler Elf. Is that
Keebler
what that
Elf.
is?
Yeah, that's him.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much that was retro back in the day of here's the Kiss. At least I would think this is the Kiss novelty.
Yeah.
Oh, look, they even had a Cabbage Patch.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's that's some of the ones I remember, and I've seen in thrift stores. I've seen that Snoopy one in thrift stores that where there's just the character and they're kind of standing and the phone is next to him. The 7-Up spot, I remember him having a phone. And some of the other ones, other like Coke and Pepsi, I'm sure had phones. And there now, I should have, if I would have been smart, I would have brought this out. I have that phone right there. The
this is the
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters symbol phone, novelty phone.
Now, this was something that I just did not expect to buy. I was in the record store of all places, and I see this in front, and it's in a box. It's in a black box, has the logo on the front, and I can't remember what it cost. I talked them down a little bit. I think I paid probably like $70 for it, but it was like a promotional item. It wasn't like a retail item when the first movie came out. And so they're kind of limited edition. I've got mine in the box and it's in pretty good condition. And I've seen them go for about double that price on eBay. So maybe someday I'll sell it and make some money. But that was just one that was like, oh, I'd never had a novelty phone back in the day. And what better one to have than the Ghostbusters symbol?
Oh yeah,
And you pull the red part of the symbol off, and that's your phone.
that's awesome.
So I
That's what I
still have
liked about the 80s. They had those novelty phones and they were all over the place. And it was you just don't see that now. You see um well, standard phones. And they've modernized them. Some do a lot more things, but there's no character to
this.
them. And not too many people have house phones like we used to do. I mean, we had to have if you wanted a phone, you had a house phone.
Yeah,
That was it.
yeah. Well, the modern equivalent of that is your case, your
Yeah.
mobile phone case, because those things, they still sell those like hotcakes. You go into there's a store here called Five Below where everything's $5 and below, and they have racks of different cases with rhinestone and whatever images you want on there. You can pretty much find it. I've got mine here. It was a plain Jane case, and then I was like, I never have any place to put stickers, so I put a bunch of Batman stickers on the back of my phone.
Nice.
And usually, what'll happen is after I, pull it in and out of my pocket several hundred times, they start falling off, and then I'll get some more stickers to put on there. I had Mad Balls on there for the longest time.
Nice.
What
I
yeah,
like
that's the kind of modern equivalent, I guess, of the novelty.
right. And I've
Back
seen
in the day.
there's a one of my coworkers, and I've seen it in a couple places where they'll have your cell phone, but they'll have an actual cord off the jack, and it's a regular old standard handset from the rotary dial. So
Really?
oh yeah, it's hilarious because you're like you have an actual handset, just like back in the day, la 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 la, and talks, and it comes through just like normal, and then you hang up, and that's it. It's actually pretty cool.
I
He
remember I remember about probably 4 or 5 years ago, as I'm blogging, getting into rediscover the '80s. I don't know if somebody reached out to me or if it was like a one of these Kickstarters or something, but somebody made it looks like the old brick phone like you had back in the day that Zach Morris had on Saved by the Bell, that you could put your actual iPhone or mobile phone into it and use it. So it was like you had the yeah, it was like you had one of those, but you had your mobile phone like the set inside it, and you can use it and use like this somehow hooked up so you could use the speakers and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm just screen sharing what one of those phones looked like, one of the original cell phones.
Yeah.
Well, that
But
leads us
anyway,
from phones and phones and phones to um, rotary versus touch tone.
right. Do you remember that kind of whole transition? I mean, was it a big deal when you finally got a touch tone or
It was
uh,
because you didn't have to deal with the rotary anymore, and you could if you made an error, it was a lot quicker than you just dee and be done.
right, right,
We had the novelty now of redial, and got to hear the beep instead of the of
right.
rotary. But my mom, we're talking about this. My mom, up until I would say only the last, I think it's only the last 10 years, her circuitry, the telephone company that she's with, their circuitry was still not updated. So we had push button phones all day long. You had to still select it to the rotary button to dial anything out. So you dial, my number or whatever, you still hear really?
Wow,
Then you had to
wow.
flip the switch to go to tone if you ever needed to do something, the standard press 1 for press 2
Right,
for.
right, right. Oh, wow.
Oh, it was terrible out there.
She just they're about out there in the sticks a little bit. Yeah.
Well, it's just that this little tiny Ma Bell style telephone company was bought
Mhm.
out. They just never upgraded it up until 10 years ago. There's like, "It still works, and it's not costing us a dime," so.
Now, I don't remember specifically that transition more than when we got our first cordless phone,
Mhm.
because what did everybody do when you got your first cordless phone?
You walked
You
as far as you could.
you wanted to see what the range was. So let me see if I can go out here on my porch swing and talk. Okay, well, it's good, but this is still back in the day too, of the old antenna that you had to pull out that was like 3 feet long. And I remember mom being on that thing, like out in the like our breezeway there on the porch swing, or being outside, or going out to the garage or something to pass it off. So I remember that being kind of a big deal when we got like a cordless phone. But it never seemed as clear though. Those early ones at least, you still got static whether you were standing in your living room or you're standing in at the mailbox,
Very true, very true. I was like you, I had one of my first was, I think I never actually had one personally up until I was 16, maybe, uh, but I had something very close to this in my dad's house right here, except it had a huge, like, red button for your on and off,
Mhm.
and I remember that distinctly. It was one of those where you just had it was a, click down, it was on, click down again, it was off. But it was a lot otherwise, it's very similar to this guy right here, and like you, I went out to the garage or wherever I could max the range out and talk, and you're right, it wasn't very clear up until unless you were within a foot or 2 of the receiver.
Yeah. I think at one point we finally just gave up on it because, like I said, no matter where you were standing, you still got static, and you didn't want that when you were on the phone, or
Right.
even when you're uh, whatever. Just well, I think we finally said forget this and went back to the other phone, even the corded phone.
Right. This one, this is the style phone I had. I don't know if it was Cobra, but it was like this. It didn't have the pull-out antenna,
Mm-hmm.
so and it had a low clock radio, and that was what I think I got it for a birthday or Christmas present. And now that thing had terrible range because there was no antenna. It was self-contained. So it was within only a few feet of that thing, and then it would just drop right off.
Right.
But it was still in a way, it was cool too because you didn't have to worry about that antenna. You didn't not that I did too much, but if you wanted to lounge in your bed talking, you weren't you weren't smacking the wall with that 3-foot long whip antenna either.
Right.
You had a
Right.
little bit more, like your regular phone, your cell phone now, you can move around without poking someone's eye out. Um, so it was just that was a cool novelty that I acquired, and then I shortly got rid of it because I think I ended up going to the Air Force. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the very first cell phone that I had. I got in college, and it still had a little small pull-out antenna that was maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches that you pulled it out, but I still had to do it. And I was like, man, well, at least I can, it's going to work, but why am I still pulling out antennas? And
That's it.
yeah. Now, do you remember, as we keep going here, do you remember ever wanting or seeing like maybe a television show or movie where somebody had a car phone, or I'll even throw in there a cell phone, like I mentioned before, like Zach Morris on Saved by the Bell? Did you ever specifically say, oh, I've got to get a phone in my car?
I did at one point, you know that, but early
Hmm.
on I did not. I never thought about it. I thought, oh, it'd be kind of cool, but that's that's pretty much where it ended. I never thought of um wanting one until we moved out to right across the street from my grandparents. And I said that to my mom. We were teenagers. I was starting to drive, and I said, "How am I going to talk to friends? All my friends are on literally that we were literally on a line. If I would have gone down to the end of our property, we would have been tied into the Kerwinsville telephone network, which would have been free calling.
Hmm.
I was on the Luthersburg and DuBois area, so it was a long distance call just to call the neighbor. That's how bad it was. So
That's
in
nuts.
my dispute, I said, "How can I talk to like Jason? We call each other for to watch Price is Right." Well, you're just gonna have to cut it short or not call at all. I'm like, no, this is ridiculous. So in frustration, I one of those I won't call it rages, but one of those teenage rebellion. I want a phone. I want a phone. So I went out and got this guy. I got this bag phone that sat in my car. It was wedged between the underneath. If you
Hmm.
remember, it was wedged underneath my parking brake.
Yep.
So I had access to it, and I found out real quickly I can't call very many people on it either because it was a freaking I can't remember what the monthly bill was. And then on top of that, during the day it was something like 55, 60 cents a minute to run it. At night was the cheap time, which was 25 cents a minute. Um, I had bought myself a we have Bluetooth. We didn't have Bluetooth then. I had a little jack, um, a little tiny jack that you hook up to a microphone, and it's set up on my visor. So if I wanted to do speakerphone, I literally would move the visor down a little bit so I could talk intelligently to whomever while I'm driving. But it didn't work out so well. Like I said, it was a very expensive to own thing. And one
Yeah.
of the last things that they've tried to pull on us was when I was I obviously I joined the Air Force. I still had that phone, So I told my mom to go and see if she could get it disconnected. Well, they said, it automatically renews every year was the contract. And I got it like in November or December or something like that. And I joined in February. So I still had on their clock, I still had 10 more months to pay on this thing. And she says, well, he can't use it or whatever. And finally she said, you realize you signed a contract with someone that was underage? Because I was 17 when I signed the contract.
Oh
That was
wow.
the loophole. That was the loophole. Oh, yeah, yeah. We'll void the contract now. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, really. How about you? What was were you thinking about a cell phone early on?
I Not really. It was just never. It always seemed like it was. If you had a cell phone, you were like super rich. You were like Richie Rich. Yeah. Zach was. I don't know if I ever classified Zach as being rich on Saved by the Bell. His dad was, I think, a stockbroker or
Yeah.
something. But he had everything in his room, including that phone, in which he had at school too. I actually just finished watching the whole series
Right.
again, but I just remember thinking that's like, wait, there's no way I could ever get something like that, and even in the car. And then I think I do remember you telling me when you got that bag phone how much it cost per minute, and I was like, holy crap, dude, this you're only going to need it when we run over a deer and we're stuck somewhere.
Right. And
you
that's it.
know,
I
as emergencies only.
It turned into
So
almost an emergencies only. I think I made only shoot, maybe a dozen calls in its lifetime with it because it was so freaking expensive. It was like I said, it was in fury. I wanted my own phone. I wasn't going to get my own phone line. And even if I did, it was going to be expensive anyway because everybody's in the other freaking local area. So
yeah,
that's what, yeah, one of
it
those.
was just never it was just never practical to me
It wasn't. That thing was
to
not
do it.
practical even then. I kicked myself one of those dumb decisions.
Yeah. I got a couple more questions just to
Sure.
ask ourselves, and then we'll get on to some of our fun memories. Uh, because back in the day, without having a phone in your car, you depended on like payphones and stuff as well. And I do remember using payphones. We would be downtown at the movie theater or something, and you use a payphone to call your parents to come pick you up or whatever. Uh, just being around, and I just threw out the question: do you remember like using a payphone to get you out of a jam? Maybe you're stranded somewhere. Anything like any specific memories like that?
There were 2 instances, and what I'm showing right now is one of those payphones. This one's a little bit pricier. It used to be like a quarter. Um, but anyway, this is obviously a payphone. I can remember 2 instances. One, my sister. It's this is slightly long-winded, but not that great. Not that big. My stepsister used to routinely lock herself in the car, out of the car. Always left the keys in the car, locked it. Every Saturday night, you could bank about 10, 11 o'clock at night. Ring, ring. It's autumn. She locked herself out of the car again. You and I, you and I went down to the Ritz, took my dad's truck, which is now mine, the 78. We went to see, I can't remember the movie. I accidentally left the key in the ignition. And I realized it once I pushed the door on the truck door. And the moment it caught that first safety latch. So I couldn't open it again. Didn't have a spare on me, nothing. So I had to walk down to Unimart when it was still there, call my dad, tell him, "Oh, Dad, I pulled an autumn. Where are you at? I'm parked over by Bacho's. Okay, I'll be down in a couple minutes." He went in and got the tickets or something. I don't remember. So nonetheless, he came down, unlocked it. So that was the one time that I've used it. The second time was I was coming home. I was almost to Eden. Again, one of these dumb mistakes. But I was almost to Eden. Noticed that the alternator went out on my Turismo. And like I said, I think I only had 5 miles left to go. Calling the payphone to say, "Dad, I think my alternator just died." He's like, "Well, do you think you can make it home?" I said, "I think so." But then how do I get to school tomorrow? Because the alternator's gone. Well, you think you can make it up here? I said, I don't know. I can try. So that's what I did. And that was what I should have done is just gone to my mom's 5 miles away, which is where I was going. And I ended up going like 20 miles the other way, racing that thing. My dad said all he saw was a blur of dim light. My train of thought when I was doing that was I wanted to go as fast. So when the engine died, it still coasted. So it was, you know, 2 meters, 2 feet less that I had to walk. I made it home just barely though. It started chugging at the last hill. Those are the 2 times, long-winded stories, but that's 2 times I made my emergency phone calls on them. How about
Gotcha.
you?
Yeah, those like I don't know what it is, but those memories just kind of stick out to you when
That's
you get
it.
stranded
And I got a
somewhere
cool
and
story because it's hilarious.
you're in an unfamiliar spot and it becomes familiar in your memory.
Yeah.
One time I do remember, I believe it was me and our mutual friend Leaf. We went to see Back to the Future 2. So this is like 89. This would be 1989. Yeah. So I can't remember if I came down and stayed at his house because that was before we moved. But anyway, so we're down in Clearfield. We're at the Ritz, and the line comes out of the Ritz down the street, like towards town, and up that alley to get tickets to the 7 o'clock show. And we got there. I don't know when it was. It was close to, when the show was going to start, and hopped in line in the alley. We're like, man, is it going to sell out? Are we going to be able to get in? Well, we got in the first set of doors and they yelled out, it's sold out. And we're like, oh no. And we're downtown, but I remember calling my parents for some reason. His granddad lived down the street. So I'm not sure why we just didn't go down there and call, but I remember having to call them because maybe they were going to pick us up or something. But we walked, it might have been down to Unimart or, like you said, one of those places nearby to make a phone call to my parents and tell them. And I think they ended up just telling us, okay, just go to his grandparents' house and wait it out and go to the 9:15 show or whatever it was. So we waited and they allowed us to stay out and go see it because we were so excited to go watch the movie and had to make a phone call from a payphone. But that experience just sticks out with me because that was the only time I ever remember the Ritz being sold out and not being able to get in there for a show.
There was one time that I think it was you and I that went. It wasn't sold out, luckily, but was dang close because we were up the aisle or the alleyway, trying to waiting in line because it was a big. I can't remember what movie that was, too.
Yeah, it's that summer of '89. I remember seeing a lot of movies in the theater. The memories kind of stick out to me, and that's definitely one of them. I remember going to see The Burbs over at the Du Bois movie theater, I think with Leaf as well. I'm not sure if you were with us.
No, I didn't go to too many movies even growing up there. I do remember seeing one of the Star Wars, but I don't remember details. I obviously don't even remember the episode, 1, 2, or would it be 3, 4, 5, whatever they are, 4, 5, 6. One of the originals. I remember seeing. Shoot, I can't remember what else I've seen there. I remember watching the Transformers 80s movie up at Du Bois with you. And I remember seeing Naked Gun 33 1/3. And I never got any of those jokes. You were sitting there rolling. And I think you finally turned to me and said, you got to watch the first ones so you can understand these ones. Something along those lines.
No, it was, I don't know. It's his style of comedy too.
I haven't watched it.
That was in Du Bois too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in Du Bois.
Yeah. I do remember seeing that one over there.
The tangents we go on.
Yeah. So we're off on the movie.
We forewarned you back in the Meet the Host episode. This is going to go down the different trails.
All right. Well, the final question I had was, do you remember when you got your first answering machine?
I don't remember the date, but I remember it was one of those big, full size cassette styles. Something very similar to this guy that's being shared right now because there was two cassettes. One was your message, and one was the actual message from your caller. And that was back in the day. I don't think we had it, but I saw the ads and I wanted them. Nobody's home, nobody's home.
Yes. Now, I do remember that. Those television commercials, they had like little. It was almost like a mixtape of
Yeah,
messages you could have for your home answering machine, and it was just people talking. Oh my gosh, there's like the rap version, and then just silly ones. It was crazy. I don't remember having the big cassette, but I do remember mom having the micro cassette
hmm
answering machines, and that was in our when she was living in the apartment across from the mall. So that wasn't until high school that I remember having an answering machine.
it's probably
So,
along the lines that I'm showing now. I had one in my dorm room. I know I've said this before in one of them. I have had the technical difficulties when I was in the dorm rooms back in when I just first got in the Air Force, got my first assignment, and that was the most hilarious thing. I still wish I would have kept that cassette from you because it was hilarious. All he did was laugh, just laughed, and then he said, I think he said something to the effect of, I'll call me later" or whatever. So it was hilarious listening to him laugh because he got it, obviously, because he knows what the technical difficulties was. But my mom never got it. Something's wrong with your phone. No, that's my message, mom.
That's great.
And what I'm showing up now is one of the ads. The answering machine zone, the crazy calls.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Those are some fun memories there. All right, let's get on to some other fun memories. How about it?
Yeah, one of them you did. This is something you taught me. I think it was out when we were out in Eden. I don't know why. Was on the phone. We started calling these stupid numbers, and it was also about the time when MC Hammer was reigning, and he had this one. I can't remember. I was trying to think about the song earlier today, where he kind of sits there and raps. Oh, 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 oh. Well, then you said, "Check this out, dude. Let's just call it 765 0000. The number you have called, do 765 0000 is not in service." And we got the biggest charge out of that, but it was something we did.
Yeah.
This is what country bumpkins do when we're bored out in rural Clearfield, I'm telling you.
I totally forgot about that. I can't even remember what song it is too, where he's like, "Uh-oh, uh-oh, 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 here comes the hammer."
Yeah.
I think that was
Something off
it.
I think it's actually something off the album, not the hits that he's done.
Right, 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 right. Oh my gosh. I totally remember that. But the next one I do remember, and I'm not sure what became of it, but it might have been just somebody's number that sounded like a song. And I learned Mary Had a Little Lamb on the touch tones. I could probably still do it now if I had
It's all just 7, 8, 9, but I could never figure out the freaking combination of doing it, but he would do it.
and
And
the
then
rhythm. Yeah.
your redial would work, mine would not, so it'd even be on faster speed,
Yeah. Just break that out every once in a while.
He did.
I don't think I ever learned any other songs on the touch tones,
No.
but I had Mary Had a Little Lamb down pat.
You did. And then we had The Price is Right, which really wasn't a phone battle. It was us, like we've said before, we spent an hour almost every day on the summer calling back and forth and doing The Price is Right. Okay, I bid 1,500.
Yeah.
It was just
Oh,
hilarious.
I was way off. Yeah. That was fun. I mean, just that's summer vacation at
Mhm.
its finest there. On a rainy day or sometimes on a regular day. It was just that we had a routine
That's it.
to
regular day. We did it almost every day, I think. There might have been a few exceptions where one of us was on vacation or something, but yeah.
Yeah. Play the prices right over the phone.
Then you
Uh,
mentioned remembered numbers, or the numbers that you do remember.
I don't know exactly what that was pertaining to. Maybe our old numbers.
Old numbers or anything that sticks out, like for me, I used to do, um I still remember some of the numbers from back in the day. I remember the original WCPA number, 765-5541. Um, there's not many more I can remember. But back in the day, you had to remember that was, or you wrote them down and carried like a little notepad or address book or something, Rolodex, what they called back then.
Yeah.
But, I mean, now we store it in here, and you almost have to ask yourself, "What's my number?" I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I do that all the time when somebody asks what's Aaron's number. I'm like, I think I know it. But you just don't. I mean, you're pressing a person's name instead of actually dialing numbers, you
There's a
know.
there's a joke many years ago, but there was a joke that said, he's filling out the form. It says phone number. I don't know. I never call myself. Um, then
Yeah, there was all the shortcut numbers too, like star 69 was you dialed the person, it was like a redial
yeah,
number, you know.
yeah. He calls the person that just called you. Yeah.
There was one to get the weather or something as well, or the time. It was like something 1212 or something. I can't remember. And I can't remember who in the world told me that or used it, but it was a specific number to call, and they would give you like the official time and what temperature
Oh,
was
wow.
in your town.
That's funny.
Yeah,
We have types of phones which we just went over,
right.
but this was also back in the day when 900 numbers ruled the airwaves,
Oh
or
my
at least
gosh, yes.
commercials. And you
And
had all types. I still remember Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
yeah, that got me in trouble one time because I always thought, so they always say, it's like $2 the first minute and 50 cents each additional minute. Well, I was like, maybe I could call, and before my 60 seconds was up, I wouldn't get charged. Well, no, that's not the case. As soon as you connect, you're spending that $2. So I would call up. There's a picture.
Yeah, here's the picture of Jazzy Jeff.
I remember calling that number. I think there was a Run DMC number, maybe.
Well, there's the Hulk,
Uh,
454
there's
Hulk.
there was a wrestling one, like WWF hotline. And I remember once that became popular or something, I tried to pull that trick and be like, I'm gonna call and just hear what it's about that first before the first minute was up, and they won't charge me. Well, that was not the case, and then my dad got like an extra $50 on his phone bill or something. I can't remember what it was. He's like, "Did you call these numbers?" And I got in trouble. I think he finally did like talk his way out of it or something. Didn't have to pay, but he just laid into me on that. They always say, they had to say, get your parents' permission before you call. I just ignored that.
I'm looking for some more. Oh, there's MC Hammer right here. Called 909 MC Hammer. We can talk to a hot Jedi. What the heck?
Weird.
Here's Freddy. We can call Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Everybody had them, man.
Oh
Until
yeah,
they
Corey.
until they started. Yep, the Corey Feldman, the two Corys, they both had the hotline together.
Here we could join Grandpa and be a junior vampire.
Yeah. Everybody, man, until they like the FCC came in and regulated that stuff or whoever it was, it was like free reign on your telephone bill. And then they dialed it back and they had to put all these stipulations in each message and add that little get your parents permission line and all that, and they finally kind of trailed off, in the probably mid 90s.
Yeah, it was probably about that time frame that it petered off. There was a number I called. It was an 800 number. No bills. I was really scared, and my parents were even scared. But it was back when Captain Crunch was was a really big character. They had an 800 number. You call the captain. And I remember calling it. I even called it from my grandmother's phone. Of course, that was the rotary number, so waiting. But yeah, I thought that was cool because they'd be talking, "Hi, it's the captain," and whatever.
I found one just the other day. It would be long distance, but it's some number in, I think, Denver, Colorado. You can call, and it's called the Colin Oates line. And when you call, you have a choice between like 4 Hall & Oates songs that you can hear. And you just punch in whatever number you want, and they play will play like Man Eater or whatever on the line. It still works. I put it up on Rediscover the 80s. It's made the rounds. I know it has, all over the internet, but I think it's funny there's still a number like that works. And somebody still has it set up to do some like little novelty thing, like playing a Hall & Oates song.
Well, I was back in Idaho, and I really didn't get into listen to too many radio stations back then. But I stumbled onto a morning show that had stumbled. At least that's what they said. They stumbled onto Adam West's phone number, and it's made the rounds after he's passed away. It's made the rounds where
Mm-hmm.
it says Adam West, see Batman. You go to Batman, there's the number, and it's actually in the Ketchum phone book where he was living, and all you had to do is look for the Ketchum white pages and just do it, and you could talk to him. He would answer the phone, and I remember him answering the phone, "Adam West, Batman speaking," and they just did an improv of, "Hey, Adam, this is DJ blah, blah. Really? Well, how are you, Bat fans?" It just went off like that. I'm like, how is it? I actually sat there and thought, I think they actually pulled this off, like producer or whatever had to have done this. But there was
Mm-hmm.
that part of me that went, what if? That's actually kind of cool. I got to find this number, and I never got back to it. Now too late, obviously, but it was pretty cool.
Well, what about, have you ever remember a time when you were pulling pranks on the phone?
I remember, I'll save the one that I'm thinking of that's yours. The other foot prank that I remember is the one we used to do to CJ, and we've said that before, where we would call him at the radio station because we know it would, if we hung up, it would still ring 2 times. And we were subjected by Carl to always say the same thing. "Hi, this is WCPA, WQIX. This is Wyatt. How may I help you?" And he had to say that whole entire line before click. We did that quite a bit to him. I don't think I actually did many prank calls otherwise, except for, the 0000 number. I don't think I did many prank calls. However, Jason, on the other hand, loved to do a prank, and I'll let him take the floor here.
Well, something just came to mind. I was thinking back in the day, maybe it was when you called your own number. If you dialed your own number and then hung up the phone, it would ring back.
It would. We used to call my dad for dinner for that. We would do that.
So I remember being in like friends' houses or something and doing something like that. But it rang different. I think it was like 2 quick rings or something. It wasn't like the normal ring, but you could still, pull it off on somebody. And
Yeah.
as soon as they pick it up, there's just the dial tone, So that was one I do remember pulling off, but I don't know how this happened. Maybe I was just bored. I was an only child, but I pulled off this prank many a time.
While I was
And this
there
was
most
in
of the
my
time.
like early high school years. So everybody knows PBS, and how PBS earns their money is they do a telethon. So they play, Ken Burns' baseball documentary on there. and they have people call in and pledge a certain amount, and you can get the DVD, whatever, or VHS back in the day.
Yeah.
So, so you could always hear the phone ring on while they're doing the telethon. Okay, so I was like, I'm gonna call in and just see if I can hear my phone ring. So it became the running gag. So I would call in and I would, you'd hear a phone ring and you're trying to figure out which person, when they got the camera back there and all the people are standing by, you try to figure out which person is picking up the phone. And then you could obviously there was like a delay or something when you're talking, and then the person talking on the other end on TV. But yeah, so I would call up and let it ring a few times and try to figure out who it was. And then you call back and then you stay on the line. So you're getting the same person, and they're getting pissed because they keep picking up the phone, and it always went, or at least from my memory, it always went to the same person. So they would pick it up. There would just be nothing there. Hello, hello. They put it down. They kind of smiling. They know they're on TV, so they can't get all pissed off.
Well, there's one.
That was a huge prank that I pulled off all the time when I would be home and the telethon is on.
Probably not every time, but I was over at Jason's when this happened. And one of these episodes, we were doing it again. It must have been the Mountain Dew and whatever Pepsi going through our veins. So he's dialing this phone, and he's sitting there saying, "Just watch this guy. We're gonna piss him off." And sure enough, he's on he's on like the third call, and we see the camera looking right at this person that keeps picking up the phone, and you could just see them getting pissed, and they can't, they finally just lose the expression, like, you hear them wanting to say "dang kids" or something to that effect, but
one of the lash out, but they couldn't.
We're just seeing the face. We're like, we got him. Let's go for 4 or whatever times. It was hilarious what we did back then. It was, I mean,
gosh.
Yeah. And you've said it before that you probably owe them a bunch of money for all the pranks you call.
Yeah. Yeah. I should probably make a small donation if I ever win the lottery, I'll go give them a nice little chunk for those years I bothered them. Oh gosh. Yeah, that's about it. I don't remember doing many other pranks. I probably did, at some point or another, where I'm calling one of my friends up at the middle of the night or something and trying to make weird noises or whatever on the phone.
Right.
But I didn't try to do too much of that stuff. Just, I don't know. I wasn't one of those mischievous kids. I was mainly good, but I did do some weird stuff that I knew I could get away with. I didn't want to have to deal with the wrath of like some of my friends' parents. If I could do it to somebody on TV and they had no idea who I was.
Right.
So, well, I think that we've covered our telephone early memories and battles and pranks and all that pretty well. So do you have an idea? I believe it's your turn for the next topic.
Is it? I thought I picked this one, to be honest.
No, I think you originally planted the idea, and then I was like, well, let's just do the phone battles, and I chose it for this one.
Okay.
So I think it's your turn.
Now I got to look, because I wasn't planning on being on the spotlight.
And I was trying to remember some of the ones we talked about recently.
Yeah, I have the list up right now. One of the ones I was actually wanting to talk about was remembering stores, like the department stores and malls.
Oh,
the novelty of, where we were. I don't want to give too much away because I want to talk about it. But yeah,
that would be fun.
I think it would, because you got us as in the small town, right? That I still don't want to say too much. they're just small town atmosphere. And then when we go to Altoona and we went to Logan Valley Mall, I mean, that was like the Cadillac version of malls when we went there, at least for me. So I kind of
Yeah.
want to have some fun with that. That's one of my um, big ones, I guess. I'm
Okay.
going down right now, but is there
Yeah.
anything sticking
I,
out?
I, I think that would be fun just for this kind of summer season
Yeah.
because that was when we were hitting the malls more. We had a small mall there in town, and like you said, we would go over to Du Bois a lot. I remember most of the stores there, and or at least the ones that I, was there for uh, that I had to hit whenever I was in there, and then so I do remember some of the bigger malls and some of those stores that I had made a beeline for. So that would be fun, I think. And then maybe some of the other department stores and such in town that we had and what those were like back then.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, just want to say a quick thank you to everyone, and we again, I know it's been been a while since we got back behind the microphones, but we appreciate you just sticking with us and going back through the library and listening to our previous shows and memories and everything we go through here on Memory Jogger. And we'll keep pushing forward when we can. We can't promise it's going to be on a regular basis, which I know kind of sucks because you want to listen to something on a regular basis and know when you're going to get another episode. But just life is busy now for us and a lot for you with
Yeah.
the infant twins. So
I keep proclaiming, I think I'm on year 2 now saying this. We keep proclaiming that I'd like to do a schedule, but it hasn't worked out. So I can't even promise a schedule
yeah,
anymore.
well,
That's
we'll do it when we can, and
that's it. That's the man. That's
kind
the
of
planner in me. I love planning and having a structure, and it's not working out too well.
yeah. Well, we'll just do it when we can, and when you get one in your feed, you'll be happy you'd have it, and you can listen to it a couple times.
That's what we do. At least I do.
Yeah, but like I said, go back and just explore some of the other shows too in the feed that I've been doing with the rankums and everything. So trying to keep everything, as much as a variety as we can within the same feed, kind of what we're trying to do over there at the Retro Network. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your feedback, and please do so when you can over there on YouTube, where we do our recording session video, and then obviously our Facebook, Twitter for Rediscover the 80s.
Right. And that's going to wrap it up again. We invite you to join us on rediscoverthe80s.com, our social media outlets. And as we close, it's too hot to handle, too cold to hold. You ain't hurt nothing this funky with or without you. Another one bites the dust. I play my part and you play your games. Lonely nights that come, memories that go while running down Memory Jogger.
Nice. Bunch of music lyrics. I thought you were going to
That's right.
recite the whole Ghostbusters theme there. It is
No, that
Ghostbusters
one
Day.
came up somewhere else, but the rest of these, believe it or not, has been me listening to WCPA lately. I've been listening.
Fun.
I I I don't know what it is. I'm on this big. Oh, we're still live. Sorry. Still recording. Yeah, we do this. We have our little chit chats of what's going on and how we come up with this stuff. So
Well, we just we as we like to do a little preview and a little post show and everything, but in particular to everybody that watches us, thank you so much. And we'll like I said, we'll get a show out when we can, and maybe we'll have something else for you in the YouTube feed as well coming up. But thank you guys so much, and please leave feedback. And we always like that feedback and be able to, come up with shows based around topics that you suggest or just better ways to present what we're doing. So thank you guys.
yeah, thank you. It's a great encouragement.
And we will see you hopefully soon, but
Yeah.
Uh, we'll see you next time. We'll put
Yep.
it that way.
We'll see.